And we're live. Welcome to Masterminds with Pam and Brian, where we bridge the gap between creatives and financial freedom. We acknowledge the creative in the entrepreneur and the entrepreneur in the creative. Now I'm just waiting for my co-host to come. Let's see. Let's go. Let's go. Let me see. Go live with Pam. Here we go. Hey
Hello,
there,
can you hear
Pam.
me?
Welcome to another Thursday. Another
Welcome
special.
to another special Mastermind Thursday. I'm so excited to be here.
Awesome.
Yes, yes. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome whether you're listening to this live or in the recording. Welcome to Mastermind Thursdays. I know Brian already gave us the introduction. We'll give you a moment. Set
Yeah,
up your
yeah,
phone.
yeah. I'm just fixing, gotta fix my little harness. There you go.
Okay.
Is my sound coming in good?
Your sound is coming in good. You're
Amazing.
good. All right. We have a very special guest today, so I'm gonna let Brian go ahead and introduce her.
Okay, so our special guest is named Rebecca. Rebecca is a community organizer, curator, and interdisciplinary artist, and a production designer. She also writes and directs, produces, and assists in many different worlds. So let's bring her up. Me and Becca go way back. Let me see. Let me see what's going on here. Hmm. Am I still live, everybody? Just wondering. Okay, Pam. Pam froze, so we're just gonna fix that problem first, and then we deal with the rest later. Some technical difficulty. Pam, you still with me?
I'm still with you. I'm
Okay,
back. I don't know what happened.
amazing.
That
Yeah.
happens once every podcast in the beginning. I don't know
Once every
why.
podcast, it's okay. Yeah. So,
All right.
Becca, come
Becca.
on up.
Ah, there she goes. All
Oh,
right.
hi.
What's up?
I'm trying to set up my phone too
Yeah.
to make sure the lighting looks okay.
Lighting
Yeah.
looks perfect.
You're looking great.
I'm
So,
just setting it against my computer that I was working on.
yeah, we all find a way. I kind of have like this little $20 rig, but it kind of covers the microphone, so I always get really scared that my microphone is not coming in good.
No, you're good. You're good. I have a square um ring light instead of the circle one. It's a square one, so I could like fold it up in like a
Ooh,
rectangle, and then I could like travel with it.
Very,
I need
very
to get
cool.
I need to get on that.
Oh, it's
Well,
very nice to meet you, Becca. Very nice to
Yeah.
meet you. Brian mentioned, introducing you that you are interdisciplinary artist. I want to hear more about what does that mean to you and what kind of work you do and who are you? What's your story?
Yeah, my story could take like 5 hours. But yeah, I would say I do kind of a mixture of things. It took me a long time for me to like even identify myself as an artist because I did like a lot of photography, and sometimes I would like to work with kind of mixing paint and like nature elements and stuff like that, and I would work on short films and do a lot of like more so curating and helping other artists,
mm,
and I didn't really take as much time to like hone my own craft, but I did a lot of photography and film stuff and that kind of thing. And then I started to realize like I think I think like the idea of like interdisciplinary art or multidisciplinary art has become more mainstream. Like it's more okay for people to dabble
hmm
right.
in a lot of different things. So I hate that I had to I feel like I was like it felt easier for me to be like, okay, I'm not like an amazing illustrator or something, but I do dabble in a lot of different mediums, and that's what I like to do is like connect different mediums and that kind of thing.
Wow.
So
I love that. I definitely understand where you are. I'm a painter. It's one of my painting.
yeah, saw your
And
I saw your stuff on like on one of your videos or something, and I think you're really
thank
great.
you. I appreciate that. I made a huge installation for my thesis work when I graduated with my bachelor's in fine arts. I really want to create like huge environments that people could like walk into and installation work, but I do know that the money is on the wall. That's
Yeah,
what it's a lot easier for people to purchase a painting than to purchase an installation.
true.
It's really museums that host installations and pay an artist like 20K to have the installation like in the work and in the museum or something like that.
Yeah,
What I don't know exactly how much, but I did work for an artist before, and so I don't know if that number is like the same for everyone. But that's not the point. But I get what you mean. Like I'm an artist, I'm a painter, reflective. I think in general, and one of our podcasts, Brian and I were talking about like, being like a Renaissance person, like doing
Yeah.
multiple things and being interested in multiple things because I'm a day trader. I'm very much into crypto. I'm creating an e-commerce store, like, but I also love being an introvert in my studio at the same time.
You're a
I
pod.
just read you actually, oh, sorry, you just made me think of this quote. I literally just saw this quote like an hour ago, and I've seen this quote before, but I thought it was funny. I was like, I gotta slip this into the conversation somehow because it was a sign that I saw this quote today. And it was like something about, and I don't know who said it, so I feel bad not to credit them. But anyway, it was like something about being an artist is like the tension between wanting to be seen, um,
Mm.
maybe performative, and like wanting to not be seen and like hidden. And I thought that was very interesting and relatable.
Yes, I
Um,
definitely relate to that. I'm sure Brian also. As an artist, we need that like introspective time. But then at the same time, like you can be an amazing artist quiet in your studio for the rest of your life if you don't know how to network and be social and be
yeah,
seen at the
yeah,
same time.
yeah. I think different people fall at different places on the spectrum, but I also feel like there's different seasons for different things, like either in your life, like bigger seasons or like smaller seasons. Like I feel I always talk to like a lot of artists that, they're I feel like a lot of artists and people in general, especially with social media, will try to keep up with like this constantly producing things and constantly doing things and whatever. And that's fine if I know some artists that operate that way and their content is a little bit different, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but like you said, you have to have that incubation period. It's like seasons in nature,
Definitely.
like you have to
Mm-hmm.
have, if you don't have winter,
Yep.
summer is not going to be, spring's not going to bloom the way that it needs to.
Mm-hmm.
Which I could go on to a whole thing about that, but anyway.
Yeah, we need winter. Yes, we do need the hibernation period. But yeah, to go back to like what turned you into being someone that creates herself expressively? Like was it always in you? Did something like dramatic happen that turned you to art, you
Like
know?
Batman. Have a Batman origin
Yeah,
story.
I've got a lot of Batman origin stories.
Yeah.
No, but man, to keep, I guess like the more slightly more concise thing is like I think I grew up with a really romantic sense of the world and like a very strong spiritual connection, and at the same time I have a very like scientific analytical mind, and sometimes those things can get in the way of each other. But like I think I I started to see things like as young as I could be. I felt like I would have like weird crazy dreams, and I
Mm-hmm.
like to write crazy stories, and I would have all these like crazy business ideas. I had this side note. I had this like one of my many hustles as a kid was I would take I had all these like little businesses I made up, and I would take Halloween candy and save some aside for later in the year, and I would pick the ones that I knew were like my parents' weaknesses, and I would come back later in the year and I would be like, it would be like late at night before bed. I was like, oh, I'm selling this for 5 cents. Anyway, that's
Yeah.
the kind of
That's
stuff I would do,
cute.
like weird little things like that. And like, but I also, I'm getting way off track, but
Now
um,
we'll
I
come back
think,
to that too.
yeah, sorry. Uh, but I feel like I really loved being in nature. That was something I remember, like very artistic thing was I liked like painting, making weird abstract paintings and putting clay into it and stuff like that. And I also felt like I was always seeing things as like a movie. But the thing was, for years and years of my life, like a huge chunk of my childhood, I was a competitive figure skater, and that was like
Wow.
my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That's so cool. That's really cool. I feel like in another life I was doing that. Not in this life, in another life.
you were. I believe it. I can see it.
That is
Hey, maybe
so
in this
cool.
life you can still
Nah.
do it. I'll
My
teach you.
my mom, on a side tangent, my mom, her water broke when I was 6 months, so she was like very overprotective of me as a child. So like, don't jump. No, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
No, I learned how
I
to ride a bike at 18. So like, I know how to ride a bike,
thought
but
my parents, my parents were also very.
I
That's
mean, they let you do figure skating, so that's a big thing. But also wanted to talk about like what you said about like selling the candy. It reminds me of my sister used to steal. We have different dads. She used to steal my dad's cigarettes and sell them back to him.
that's iconic. That's diabolical.
He would be like, "Where's my cigarettes?" And she would like sell him the cigarettes. But that's a total off tangent that like is so
I
like
know
cringe.
that could go into a whole nother side conversation. I feel
That's
like.
Yeah, but back to the figure,
entrepreneurship.
Right,
back
that's
to the figure
entrepreneur. That's
skating.
like the. It's like we have like two roads. Like, should I circle back to talking about the artistic side or the business side?
I want to
I,
hear
I, fi-
both.
I find that your figure skating, which I love when you post it on your story, really shows like your kinetic art form, like you're graceful like a dancer, and you do like to do some freeform dancing on your page as well sometimes. So I think that that's like a strong part of your art, like kinetic,
Yeah.
physical, interpretive flow.
Yeah, that is. And I let that, that's the thing. Like, I feel like I buried that for so long because I think I had like a lot of my childhood was so dedicated to that. And, um, like, my like when I was a kid, we were very poor. Like, now my dad's not, but so there was a lot of it's a complicated story, but it was a lot of pressure because figure skating is a very expensive sport. So we had to like I had to like it's kind of cringe, but like I had to go my mom like made us go door to door selling chocolates and like doing stuff like that to get um fundraising for training and just and those are cool experiences in a way. Like it's one of those things that's like kind of like but also it could be good experiences. And so I really loved figure skating, and I think it was like somewhere deep in my soul, like, but I always after I got injured and like wanted to do other things and other stuff was going on in my life for so many years, I like hid that part of me um because I felt like I already wasted so much time on that and it didn't become productive and I didn't become an Olympian or blah blah blah. And like I acknowledged that the discipline and the artistry and stuff was good learning experience, but I really I don't know. I guess I actually just had a conversation with an old figure skating friend yesterday about all this and unpacking like the relationship you have to an art form, especially when it's something so physical. Um, how like I don't know, reconnecting with that can be really healing.
Mm.
And there's a lot to unpack there, but like I think I've very often like I'll either have things from my childhood or my past or newer things that I want to get into, and I feel like I like put them aside. And I think I'm in a season of my life where I'm trying to lean into those things and try to integrate them together.
Hmm. Yeah,
Wow, I love
and
that.
and and Becca has really big visions. She's a part of really big productions, and I met Becca, and it's been chatterbox, 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 like from politics to environmental things to sociology to art. And Becca is so well versed on so many different angles, and that's why, I definitely called her up to come and have a conversation with us, because one of the most interesting people in the world, as you can see.
Yes, I'm so happy you're here telling your story. I like want to know so much more. And I want to say that one of our mentors, Nano, who is a leader in Alpha Society and the team that we're part of, and he was doing baseball for his whole life and he wanted to be a professional baseball player. And he went to college and all that, and he tore his shoulder or injured his shoulder and he could no longer do baseball. And he talks about his story about how like that led into deep depression because his entire life he was going after being a professional baseball player, and now he's in his early 20s and he can't do that. He could be a sports coach, but he was like it completely like yeah, complete rock bottom. I can understand why. And he did say that the most important lesson, like it all happens for a reason, and the lesson he learned in baseball is you don't have to hit a home run a lot. I think it's like 3 out of 10, or I don't know, like the that word is always hard for me. Statistics exactly, but I believe like for example, like a famous baseball player hits a home run, they know about his home runs, but majority of the time they're not hitting home runs,
Yeah.
right?
A
It's like
good,
a
a good
very
batting average, a good batting average is like you hit like, yeah,
like
30%, about 30.
30%. Okay, 3 out of 10, like 30%. I think I remember him saying that. And so now him being a leader, an entrepreneur and an investor and a trader, right? It's
Mm.
the same concept, right? It's like he learned the concept of like, for example, with trading, you only have to be 33% right to be a profitable trader. Majority of
Wow.
traders lose majority of their trades. It's just that their winning trades outweigh the losses. And so like that's like an example, and also the amount of discipline that he had to have in order to be in baseball, and I'm sure with ice skating as well, with any sport to that level, the amount of discipline you gain. He talks about how grateful he is that he learned that discipline at such an early age, that now he's able to like create six figures within himself, and like because of all that experience. So it's like I can imagine how like you wanted to be an ice skater, right? Like a professional ice skater, and then something happened, like an injury happened, you mentioned, and I could see why the tendency is to like bury it and be like, like not, and you can always correct me if I'm wrong because I'm just meeting you here, but like it's it's good that you're unraveling that, because it's like there's probably a role in all of that that maybe you still gotta unravel, or maybe
Mhm.
you are unraveling it right now, right?
Mhm.
I hope that resonates with you in some
No,
way.
it does. You're you can, yeah, don't worry about like saying the wrong thing or offending me. No, you're totally right. And that's such a good point. That's interesting. I'm not really into baseball all like that, but I know my dad is, and I've always like respected the fact that it's very like, well, sometimes I get annoyed with how slow it is, but
It's boring.
but it's
It's
very slow, but I like
boring.
how methodical it is, and like it's almost kind of like a ritual, and it's very slow. And that was something that also came to mind when you're talking about that, is like, yeah, you have to learn to probably balance your emotions a little bit.
Mhm.
um and yeah, there's so many transferable skills, like mentally and physically. And this woman I was talking with yesterday, I was kind of thinking on some things that I had reflected on the last few years, was like, even there's like even funny little somatic things. And I know Brian's really into like symbols and how like those can be layered into deeper things. And this isn't really a symbol, but I was thinking about, I don't even know how I could explain this to you. There's this thing there's different types of jumps, and you enter into the jumps differently. And I remembered when I was young, there's this thing called the Lutz, and you enter it like backwards, and you get a lot of power, and you enter it backwards, and you like, I can't really, but you enter
Something
it, you're not
crazy.
even facing it. You're not even facing it. And it's supposed to be harder than some of the other jumps that you face forward. But I started to notice, um, I always got like, my coaches would get annoyed at me for being good at that one, but I wasn't good at the other ones. And I was like getting less and less good at practicing the ones that I wasn't good at, and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, I was reflecting on like, what does that mean for my personality? Because I think as an adult, I started to notice that, like, I do like, I can be a little bit internal and like whatever, but I do like risky, like big things, but I do them like in an indirect way, in a way that like feels safe. And then that reminded me of the style that jump is, which is like kind of a weird, hard to even explain how those concepts connect. But I was thinking like, oh wow, that's something I'm learning about myself from something that I did as a kid that was like a physical thing. Okay, how do I learn like how that's a strength and a weakness? You know what I mean? I can't look at the thing because it freaks me out, but it's more intense than the other things. Okay, so like maybe that makes me a little like conflict adverse, but I can handle big things, but maybe I need to be better at like facing them front on when I don't know, where there's more to unpack there,
That
but
makes sense.
it's interesting to think about.
Yeah, there's definitely a connection there for sure. And also like you just saying like I'm a risk taker, right? Like that could go and you could take that quality as like a strength. That's
Yeah.
a strength.
You like
Because not a
challenges.
lot of people, yeah, you like
I like
challenges. That's the
challenges.
thing.
Yeah. I wouldn't even, and that's funny because like, I'm like, wow, I'm not a risk taker. I'm actually like, I
Okay.
think I think what's gotten me, I probably, I think I've identified as not being a risk taker, but I love challenges. And I think I need to be more of a risk taker because I've realized something about myself is that life is like full of risks, and if you put off
Mm-hmm.
taking risks, they come out. It's like water, like it comes out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like water, like it will come out one way or another. So you kind of like have to, you get what I'm saying? Like you kind of have to face it
Yeah.
head on. And I've noticed about myself that, oh, I do, like you kind of said, like I do like challenges. So let me embrace that more instead of, I don't know.
Like head on. Yeah. Do
Yeah.
you know Jim Rohn by any chance?
What is it? Who is it?
Jim Rohn, he's a mentor. He's
I'm not
dead
sure.
now, but he was a phenomenal mentor. I love listening to his audios, and he's very funny as well.
Oh,
While he does like personal development and success and stuff. He was a farm boy that became a multimillionaire,
wow.
and he talks about, his process. And he's like, life is a risk when you were born because nobody makes it out alive. And I was like, I was like, that's so true. Like when you think that our whole life is risky. And
It is.
the way he says it is so funny because he's like very sarcastic, but yeah, that's what it makes me
I'm
think
gonna have to
of.
look him up. That'll go on my
Yeah,
list
he'll
for
get
sure.
you going. He has great metaphors, great little parables. It's really dope.
Okay.
So you have a passion for filmmaking. You love George Lucas.
Yeah.
Where's that? Tell me more about that.
Oh my gosh, where do I start? Um, yeah, I, well, I grew up really into Star Wars for a lot of reasons,
Mhm.
but I think something I've realized over the years. Like, there's probably a lot of different reasons at different times in my life that I like Star Wars. But George Lucas, he's also made some other good stuff. Like, he had a hand in Land Before Time, which is super nostalgic, and what is it? THX 138. Let me totally embarrass myself and get those numbers wrong. I hope I didn't. But that one's like a dystopian. He's like dystopian student film. But what always sticks with me, and I haven't been able to find this quote, but something I used to do as a kid was I would go to the library and like look up biography books on some of the people that were successful or like doing things that I thought were really cool. And I looked up some stuff on George Lucas, and I think like there was some quote where he was saying that he really struggled knowing what he wanted to do, and he was into a lot of different things. Like he went to like me, a community college, and he studied anthropology and religion slash theology, different religious studies, political science, sociology, like all these different things. But he was also into fixing cars and race cars, and he was into like weird tech, sound tech, and I can't remember what else. But anyway, he was into a lot of different things, and I think he was like, I couldn't, he had a lot of pressure from his dad, I guess, and he was like, I couldn't figure out which career. I couldn't pick a career, so I made a world that made my career, that integrated all those things, and that stuck with me since I was a
Wow.
kid. Like, honestly, and now that's like a kind of a, like, like with the interdisciplinary art thing, it's like that's kind of with social media becoming more accepted in a way.
If you're listening to a lot of marketing advice, like one of the core things a lot of people say is you got to be world building. Everybody's world building now. It's all about creating an ecosystem. It's all about like creating these grander narratives. And if you really look at a lot of TV shows and things like that, they've taken more towards world building. You got Game of Thrones. You've got, 50 Cent does, I forgot, with the Power series, where this one story branches out to so many stories. The stories are no longer about one person, but about the entire ecosystem. So because technology has gotten so much better, people have the power now to tell these more expansive stories, not about one person, but like an entire world, where we're jumping from this person's perspective and that person's perspective, and it becomes these huge integrated things. And the reason why I love your love of George Lucas is because, like you said, he's got this interdisciplinary thing where he doesn't know what he wants to do. He studies all these things, but he manages to wrap it all into something by becoming a director. Finally bringing in all these different influences and interests, and actually being one of the first of his kinds, George Lucas Studios. He created his own studio system.
Yeah.
Because, and you only have a handful of those. You got Tyler Perry, you got George Lucas. I'm not exactly sure how many more other people you got where like they're the director, they're the, who else? The guy, the comic book guy, Stan Lee. You create a world, and you have like your world is so big that you ended up creating your own studio system around it.
Yeah. Which is crazy to think about. And that's becomes painful for some of them too, because then your baby becomes this like conglomerate, and there's a whole thing there which it's like out of your control. But the thing with art and honestly anything in this world is like you have to learn not being able to control it, which is ironic because obviously that's a theme in Star Wars, is like not having, getting it, becoming at peace with not having control, but even like, and you're not going to please everyone. I think that was something else that was interesting about George Lucas, is like he wasn't the best director ever. Like, people have their criticisms and ups and downs, fickleness about like his whatever, but he had a lot of ideas, or has he's not dead. But he, you know what I mean? And he like you said, he built a whole world, and the world is so expansive. And also, like, it wasn't just to be cool. Like, there's so much really powerful messaging, in my opinion, in it, like about spirituality and about the complexity of politics and identity, and how, you know, how we should treat one another, how we should treat ourselves, the whole hero's journey thing. All that stuff is really, really fascinating to me, and I think it's like it's it's part of the like DNA of humanity. Like, these types of stories will never not be relevant, I think.
All of marketing and all of storytelling that we have relies on the hero's journey. They say that there's only one story in the world, and it's the hero's journey. It's the problem. You go into the underworld, you find the mentor, you go through the struggle, you start to overcome, you find your friends, you find your tribe, then you come back and you restore the world, you know, like. And marketing does the same thing. Like, you go and look at a Coca-Cola. I'm thirsty. Let's go into the fridge. Let's find the Coca-Cola. Oh my God, the Coca-Cola has just like saved us from this thirst. Like, it's just like
Ha!
I guess that's just a,
You got
rude
me
version
thinking
of it.
about Mad Men now,
Mad Men is a great series. Mad
which
Men.
Mad Men is so good. Oh, Mad Men is such good storytelling.
You guys are totally gonna be like, I don't even want to be on this call with Pam. I don't think I ever like fully watched Star Wars. I think I have to watch it.
That's okay.
That's okay.
I forgive
I've
you.
I've watched like bits and pieces on TV as a child, but I've never like sat down and watched it from like beginning to like end. How many movies are there?
In my opinion, there's
This point.
6,
Okay.
but there's a lot.
Oh,
There's more than that
okay.
because of Disney.
I hear so many good things about like the messaging in it. I definitely gotta watch it like as an adult, like from front to end. Like I recently watched Harry Potter from like beginning to end over Christmas. And I was
Oh
like, oh
wow.
wow, like I really like I see it in a different light now that I'm a little bit older. You know what I mean? So I was
Yeah.
like, I gotta find time to watch Star Wars. So I could be part of this conversation.
It takes time. I get it. You're not alone. Like, there's a decent amount of people. It's very rare to meet people in a way that have never seen it or whatever, but yeah, a lot of people will be like, I haven't watched the whole thing, and it's okay. Like, it's understandable. There's a lot of stuff. I never watched Game of Thrones,
I never watched Game
and
of Thrones. I watched the first episode 4 times and I was like, I can't, I don't know why I can't do this. Like I was like
Yeah.
you really like that one episode,
no,
huh?
I would fall asleep. Or I heard that it gets better over time, but
Um,
I just I think I'm not a big sci-fi
Sci-fi
person, I would
fantasy.
say.
yeah,
I'm not a big sci-fi fantasy, but I'm not like close to it. Like I'm open to like now watching it as like an adult.
right.
Mhm.
That's fair. Yeah, and things can be look very different as an adult, so that's cool.
And Lord of the Rings too. I haven't watched it
Uh-uh.
from front to end.
Oh
Uh-uh.
wow.
Lord of the Rings
I
is a
heard
bunch
that
of
that was better
walking.
than Harry
It's
Potter.
basically National Geographics and hills, and it's mostly
He's like,
just
oh my God,
environment.
why'd I get on this call with these
No,
losers?
That's hilarious.
Just playing.
that's
Uh,
hilarious. That's a
Um,
hilarious take, Brian.
I,
It is
I don't.
it
I'm not
is
a Lord of the Rings
grueling.
guy at all. Becca, you also do you do a co-op, and this co-op is has to do with sustainability in the future and art and these type of installations. Can you help me a little bit understanding what's going on here?
Yeah. And you'll be very interested in this, Pamela, because I was wanting to touch on this when you were talking about experiences and installation art. So yeah, I mean, I'm involved with like a few different co-ops and different groups in Cleveland and stuff, but kind of my home base is this organization called Ingenuity Cleveland, and I don't I want to say, like, I don't officially represent them or whatever, but I do work for them. and I also volunteer for them. So I kind of have like a few different roles there. And how do I explain what they do? They started out as kind of a traveling festival, not traveling, but like traveling to different dilapidated areas in Cleveland,
Mm-hmm.
kind of part of this initiative to reinvigorate the city and kind of do some civic engagement and some art and kind of have a chance for the community to collaborate with artists and makers and like literal engineers and people who um, do all sorts of either tech stuff or building things. And it kind of evolved into a whole organization, and they are also part of this collaborative um, that is at this warehouse kind of area. And there's different organizations there that do, you know, woodworking, like tech slash maker education. Like there's a print shop in there. There's makers lines that they do education on like soldering, and they have a 3D print box and a bunch of other stuff. There's a architecture office that also doubles as like an art gallery. Um, there's a lettuce tree
Ooh.
farms, which there's, and I don't know if there's still there's like a upcycle rebuild. There's some people there that um kind of rebuild and upcycle furniture and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of different. I shouldn't keep going on that whole rampage, but
That's
long
okay.
story long story short, um, they do a lot of programming throughout the year to help the community and educate them about sustainability, about art, and that kind of thing. But our biggest thing is the festival every year, and that's a 3 day festival that has a lot of different performers, educational stuff, vendors, music, but their biggest thing is installation art. We do like huge scale installation art. There's like some interactive theater, um,
Ooh.
and kind of a merging of tech and art. Like I'd have to give an example. Like for some of the projects, one of the projects they did for something, and they've brought it back in a few different ways, is they made a giant Polaroid camera that was like an art installation, but it also worked as like actually taking pictures of people, and then it projected it out for people to see.
Mm-hmm.
um so, and there's just different things. Like one of the projects I worked on at one point, we made a cave out of taking cardboard boxes that were going to get thrown away, and we took some, you get it wet and you put some mud on it and you kind of like crumple it up, and you can staple it and paint it a bit and put
Ooh.
some rocks and stuff in there, and it becomes a cave. So anyway, those are, I don't think those are the best examples, but I there's a lot of it kind of shows you the spectrum of things that happen there.
That
And I
sounds like
really
a
like it.
cool place.
Yeah, and I really like it because it's there's kind of, it's a kooky, funky, unhinged thing in some ways, but it's really cool because whether you're just like, whether you have a day job and you want to go there to learn stuff, like there's people from anywhere on the spectrum, like community members that just want to get involved and be doing things with their hands and learning about art, versus like people who are professional, you know, and that kind of thing. So yeah.
That's like sounds like a really cool place. So you're saying like you can either work there or you can just be like someone in the neighborhood, right? That's like I want to
Yeah.
volunteer and get my hand, like work with my hands, do something
Yes.
different, be creative. that is such a cool space to like have it open for people to like come in, meet new people. It's a great place for artists to socialize and not be
Yeah.
by themselves as well and
Right.
meet other artists. That sounds so cool. So you're based in Cleveland. You're from Cleveland.
Yes.
Oh,
I'm not originally from
okay.
Cleveland, but I have lived here for a long time now. So.
Okay. Okay. Well, I've never been to Cleveland before. I do have a friend there.
Oh, really? Wow, that's so that's so random, but that's awesome.
Yeah. Did you guys meet on social media or through like a mutual friend? How did you guys meet?
That's a great question.
Through social media.
I think it was
I don't know how exactly, but through social media, like just kind of like, oh, you're
The
doing something
power of
cool.
social
Somebody
media.
thought somebody was doing something cool. I don't know which one of us thought the other one was cool, but one of us thought the other one was cool, and that one is obviously the fan of the other. Not sure which which one it is. I'm gonna assume she's the fan of mine. I'm just kidding.
I'm gonna
dude,
I'm a
assume
fan of
Brian is your
hers.
fan.
dude,
I'm
I'm
gonna assume
clearly
Brian was your
a
fan.
fan of hers, but
we're fans of each other.
yeah.
Well, actually, that's so funny. I'm always thinking like, I'm like, man, like, how do we, because we kind of got clued in as friends, and then there's all these like funny, weird connections that I've made through him as a friend, and then all this other like weird satellite stuff. But it's one of those things where I'm like, how do I untangle? I remember vaguely that I think there was a girl who I had followed on social media, either from someone else knowing her in real life, or it was something that she had posted a dancing video or something. I remember something about that, and that person at that time was either friends with or followed because she posted or something he was doing at the time, because I think he was like into yoga and stuff back then. I'm not even sure.
Yeah.
And I don't even think that person is like on social media anymore. I don't know if I follow her anymore, but I vaguely remember this connection, but it's like,
Wow, you
Yeah.
guys been
So
internet friends for a while.
yeah.
It's been a while.
So
yeah.
social media goes crazy, man. Like you don't know who you end up crashing into while you're just commenting or like, oh, that's a cool thing. That's a cool
Hmm.
thing. It doesn't make sense. You're in Mexico. You're in Ohio. I'm in the only place that matters, New York.
New Yorkers. I mean, I'm a New Yorker. I can't say New Yorkers do believe that like New York is like the center of the world. I do have to say that. I think because there's so you could get like everybody from all over the world like lives there. But no, Brian.
Yeah, I love New York, but it is there. New Yorkers are a special breed. They're like in a little. I love New Yorkers. It's like a little prison island, but it's like the best amusement park of everything
That's
at the
a
same time.
great way to, because New Yorkers do feel trapped in New York, but then it's
Okay.
like I don't want to go
I
anywhere
know they
else
don't want to
because
go
like
anywhere. Listen, I
Yeah.
considered. Brian knows, like, I considered moving to New York several times. Like, I go visit them, and I go visit. I have a lot of friends that live in the city, and I love going there. But it is intense.
Hmm.
it is. It's a great place for art, though. It is. But
That's true.
what you explain what you're a part of, that sounds amazing. I'm sure
Thank
that there are places like that in New York that I just personally haven't encountered. I ended up moving to I've been living in Mexico for 2 years. So take a isolated artist and just make her like more
you.
isolated. Like I thought that
Oh,
was a good idea.
Yeah. No, you have to learn a new language to just talk to somebody.
Yeah, I'm the same way when you were, yeah, sometimes I'm like I'm not gonna even go out because I don't even want to like I don't want to speak Spanish. He said just like don't go out. Like but when you were talking about like you like challenges and
Hmm.
I'm definitely for that. I also didn't my family also grew up in poverty, like not with money, like so I understand you on that. Um and why I just had a brain fart. Oh, challenges. So I grew up as a child, I had a lot of there was a lot of trauma that I'm still working through, but it was always like a struggle, not feeling safe at home and all that. So I think
yeah. Same.
I took that as like I wanna like that is why I enjoy challenges. If I'm explaining myself
Mm,
correctly, it's
mm.
like I wanna put myself through how do I describe this? Like for example with painting. It's almost like I have to ruin the painting in the process for me to save it.
Mm.
Like
Ooh.
if the painting it looks too cute, it bothers me.
It,
Like, like if it llooks too cute, I'm like, ah, something's wrong here. You know what I mean? So I like do
That's
something.
accurate though. That is accurate. I think I understand what you're saying.
Like I want to put myself, and I'm an abstract painter. So there's really Robert Henry. I don't know if you know the book The Artist's Way by Robert Henry. It's like
Mm-hmm.
one of my art teachers. Oh my God, great book full of quotes. Robert Henry was like, there's really no end to a piece. It's just no, it's just stopping at a happy place.
mm.
Yeah.
So it's like for me, I have to put myself through the struggle to find the way to get out of to to like save the painting. It's like a metaphor. It's like I
Yeah.
need to put it in this traumatic space where I completely ruined it. I hate it now, and then now I can save it. And then now I'm like, okay, like I enjoy the painting. Like the painting could live.
Your paintings need redemption. Your paintings need a hero. Your paintings may need a hero story in it somehow.
Yes, I get
Right.
to bring it back together. But that's why I'm obsessed with trading. I don't know if you ever like looked at a chart before or not. Like I'm obsessed with it because it's like there's patterns, it's like a puzzle. Like I want to figure out what's next, right? It's like I could really like spend time just obsessing about like candle movements and what's happening. And it's like definitely understand like I need to be like going through a challenge,
Mhm.
a healthy
That's so
challenge.
fascinating. Yeah, that's very fascinating to me because I don't know like almost anything about that world, but I find it fascinating like aesthetically, and I've always kind of found it interesting like how does that work logistically?
So interesting,
And it's funny
especially
because
if you like challenges.
yeah, and I because I worked in the I kind of had a day job in the financial world for a
Oh,
while, but it was not like anything regarding that. It was like financial services and that kind of thing, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? But I find it interesting. I when I was younger, I used to do coding, like HTML coding,
okay.
and I am I shouldn't even be saying that for real because I like am so rusty with anything regarding that. But that kind of what you said makes me think of that because sometimes I miss that part of my brain and I'm like, wow,
Mm.
I should take a coding workshop or something at some point to like because those are like good skills. Uh and I let myself get so far past any of knowing any of that stuff. But I remember it being kind of not just challenging, but kind of
Y-
meditative.
Mhm.
Yes.
And I don't know if that
Yes.
like resonates with you, but that's
Yes. It's like in flow, like you feel like in flow. It doesn't scream about like meditative. It's weird. And Brian, you could like put your take on this as well. But I used to love puzzles as a child. Like I would redo one puzzle over and over and over again until like I memorized where the pieces were. Like absolutely like if I'm pretty sure if like my mom put me like in some sort of like I don't know, figure out what's up with my daughter. Like they would say like, I don't know, she's like obsessive or ADHD or I don't know, because like I'm like very like obsessive. But that's what it makes me feel like because like
oh,
trading is about finding patterns and it's a game of probability. So like you just have to how do I go too deep while also being artistic at the same time?
The most important pattern in trading, I'll tell you this right now. The most important pattern in trading is the pattern within yourself, which
mm,
that ends up being
Very
kind of
well
like
said.
that ends up being the trick. Like what happens is that you can understand what's happening on the chart. There's many ways to interpret it. There's many ways to participate in it. the financial markets, when it comes to like entering a trade, exiting a trade, it's kind of like a boundless environment where you really can just do whatever you want, and it's gonna do whatever it wants infinitely up until, the time limit. There's a time limit sometimes, so it'll be reacting, it'll be human emotions from a global perspective happening
Mm-hmm.
within, we can say just the New York session, because New York is the most only place that matters. Full circle, from 9:30 a.m. all the way to 4 p.m. The market, the entire globe's eyes are on New York, and how we feel about the future of our companies. And people are emoting on, well, not just people, banks and all these other things, kind of digesting news and kind of figuring out what to do with it. And you yourself are trying to figure out where you fit in. And so it's a little bit like surfing. So then what happens is that in this boundless environment, you need to figure out, because it's actually not like, I have an ebook that I'm writing, and it's called Anybody Can Place a Winning Trade. And because anybody can place a winning trade, the trick of trading is about being consistent. And consistency doesn't come from you understanding what's happening externally, more what's happening internally
Mm-hmm.
within yourself. So trading becomes this challenge to kind of your
It's a
resolve.
mirror.
It's a mirror, and it's there to kind of challenge you to resolve how you deal with uncertainty, how you deal with risk, how do you deal with the concept of money, you know
Mm-hmm.
your relationship to self-discipline.